Memphis is the home of the blues, rock and roll, and Earl Farrell.
From the Collierville Square to the mighty Mississippi, the Earl Farrell for Memphis show is all about good things that happen across the Bluff City and the people who make Memphis cool.
The Earl Farrell for Memphis show is made possible by our title sponsor, Southern Security Federal Credit Union, and by Kathy Thurmond Edwards, State Farm Insurance.
Plus, Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. Also by Dive Shop and Dive Ventures nationwide. Jim Karras Chevrolet with George Gully. Napa Cafe Memphis and Glenda Hastings. Phoenix Unequaled Home Entertainment. For Memphis Magazine. The Live at the Garden Concert Series. And the Orpheum Theater Group Memphis. Thank you to all the sponsors for making this possible.
And now, coming to you from Lansky Brothers, Clothier to the King, inside the world-famous Peabody Hotel, with the heart of a cowboy and Memphis in his soul. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Earl Farrell.
And thank you very much, and welcome in. Of course, we're coming to you live from Lansky's, Clothier to the King, in the world-famous Peabody Hotel. And right across from me right now is our first guest today, a lady that I have known a long time, Kathy Thurmond Edwards, and she's with State Farm. She's had her own agency for years, but
35 years.
35 years. We were all in the newsroom going, "Where are you going again?" "I'm going to sell some insurance. I'm going to be rich, and you guys are going to be giving me money," and we all do now.
Oh, man.
But what I wanted to get into today, this is the 50th year, celebrating the 50th year of Memphis in May kicking off. 1977, I think, was the first year. The first year I was here, 78, is when they had the first barbecue. In fact, we've got a picture. This is the first year. It was in the vacant lot next to the Orpheum Theater. And
oh my goodness.
People were cooking on hibachis, Coleman lanterns.
Let's see, what year?
1978.
78.
And that's the year I
came
moved
the
here.
next year.
And the next year is when they moved it into a tent at Tom Lee Park for the first time. And there's a shot of that, which was a huge mistake because once they all started cooking, it was like being in a burning house. I remember going and my eyes were burning. People were coughing. And there was 4 days of cooking in a tent. And they said, "We're never doing this again." And then as it developed over the years, it grew and grew and grew. And we've got a shot of what it looked like up until the pandemic, back 2019, 2020. And they didn't have the barbecue or the music fest or anything else. But this is what it looked like before they redid Tom Lee Park. And they would draw about 300,000 people, or 100,000 to the just the music fest alone, and then another 100,000 to the barbecue festival. The barbecue festival is now moved to Liberty Park at the Liberty Bowl, and that's where it's going on this week. The other one is Smoke on the River or something like that, and it's in Tom Lee Park, but not near the number of cooking teams or anything else. Last weekend was the music festival, and they had about 30,000 people there.
That was very successful, I understand, because I had some people in my office who went, and they were a little late on Monday.
So they were successful at having a good time.
Yes, yes.
Well, I did see some aerials somebody took with a drone, and it looked fantastic. They actually had my Ferris wheel idea down there at Tom Lee Park, because I've always said they should put a Ferris wheel at the end of Mud Island, right where the flagpoles used to be.
Right.
So when you come across the bridge, you see a lit-up neon Ferris wheel, and it would be such a statement for Memphis would you drive across and see that all lit up at night. So when you recall, when you first moved here, and you moved from Tupelo, was that, or just when you got out of school in New Orleans?
I got a school in New Orleans from Loyola, and my first gig out of school was in Grenada, Mississippi. I was big stuff in Grenada.
You blew them away, did you?
Yes, blew them away. But yeah, and then came on here in 1979, that the fall or end of the year, and started with AM 79 and FM 100 back in the day.
Well, that's where I first met you. Mm-hmm. And I think the very first time I met you, we laughed for the first 30 minutes. And so I said, I'm going to get along with this lady.
Oh, well, I think we also lived in this. Well, eventually I lived downtown.
Yeah.
And, years later, fast forward a few years later, we both lived in the same 99 Tower place.
Yes.
At the time, Lowenstein Tower or whatever.
Yeah. I was so efficient back then. I called and said, "Can I come down and use your phone? I got
Yes.
to call my date and tell her I'm not going to be there."
I guess this was
Before cell phones.
pre-cell
Yeah.
phones, and he maybe didn't pay his bill and had to come and.
I was always down at the late pay window where there was whatever. Thank God the bills were all paid in the tower apartments. I didn't have to worry about that. But, my idea was go work for 8 hours at the TV station and go to Bombay Bicycle Club and hang out until they threw me out.
Oh, my goodness. I was just down here last night, down on Beale Street. And so I come downtown a lot with the Grizzlies and the Orpheum Theater, and I should really move down here, but I've always wanted to. Well, I used to live down here.
Well, you told me the other day. It said, if things were different, I would be down here now because you love the energy downtown.
I love it.
The building that's gone on down here, the restaurants. We used to have Felicia Suzanne on Monday and her husband Clay, talking about their reopening the old Spendini location on South Main. They're very excited. They live down here. In fact, they walked to work and they walked over here the day they did the show. And there's just a huge energy here. And I think more and more people are getting past the crime thing and sitting there saying, make plans, plan it. If you don't want to bring your car down here, go park at East Memphis somewhere, grab a Uber or a Lyft, and have them drop you off at the front door.
Well, one of my team members, his nephew, is a police officer, and he said it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever watched some of these shows on TV, and they got all the TV cameras, and you can just see everything. Their eyes are on Beale Street, and it's probably safer than it's ever been. So it's really exciting.
There's a company called Flock, F-L-O-C-K, Flock cameras, which are artificial intelligence. They don't just take a picture of the license plate. They record everything about that car, scratches, dents, the make of hubcaps, and then it transfers all that information to a suspect car, and it goes out to every other camera in the Flock system. But they can center it just on Memphis. And then it'll look and see if this car is going and coming to any certain places, which they all go to the same places over and over again. And that's how they're catching so many people. I mean, no longer can you get away with stuff because they're going to find you.
Yes. I had some friends in town, and I always take them to downtown. They had done the Sun Studio and some other things downtown. Of course, they're going to go to Graceland today. But we were just walking around, and I said, have you been to a Schwab? Have you done this? And all this kind of thing. And I always try to, when people are in town, I always take them to a Schwab and tell them, get something weird. And
do they still have the black magic kind of thing with
all that stuff?
Love potion number 9. And,
right. And they also have the Elvis with the
pork chop sideburns
put on. So I put it on a little 5-year-old, and he did the, whatever. He loved it. And, it's just kind of things. I got some strange hats that I still
I used to buy.
I just love it.
The old newspaper boy hat, the 30s. I used to buy those, and I'd go back to Texas and go to a party, and the first time I did, I sold it for like $70 to somebody because they didn't stuff you could get at A. Schwab's you couldn't find anywhere else.
Right.
So I'd come back, I'd buy 5 hats. I'd go back to Texas, sell them each one for $70. And they asked me, "So what are you doing with these hats?" I said, "Don't you worry about it." I sound like Bernard Lansky. You take care of your business, I take care of mine.
Yes, and especially the cowboy hat with the red underneath and all that kind of thing. One of the people who was visiting me last year got one of those hats, and they were like thrilled, and they wore it the whole time. But anyway, it's just kind of fun. Fun place.
The thing, part of what the show is really about is that Memphis is a great city. I moved here from Dallas in '78, and I loved everything about it. I love the fact that you can come here and you can meet everybody in Memphis you want to meet sooner or later if you're in the media. And I met everybody within about the first year and a half. Fred Smith, I met the mayors, I met Carl Perkins, I met Jerry Lee Lewis. Elvis had already passed. He passed in '77. And but they're all so approachable and real people. And that's the thing about Memphis, because I came here from Dallas, which was there's a bit about being superficial in Dallas. First thing they want to know is, what do you do? Can you help me? Anyway, I can make money off you. And then, but in Memphis, they either like you or they don't like you. It has nothing to do with how much money you have.
That's true. But we were down, and when we were in Memphis last night, apparently there's a Methodist convention going on.
I saw
okay?
some people at the lobby. They go with the badges on.
Yeah, so it's a Methodist convention. So we go into Blue City Cafe, and we're listening to Earl the Pearl sing.
It's not this Earl the Pearl, because I can't sing.
Earl the Pearl. Earl the Pearl, who's about 86 years old.
And has a blues note on Beale Street.
Oh, my gosh. And he's got the beautiful hat with the red underneath, whatever you call it. But anyway, so we're I'm sitting there listening to Earl. We had reservations across the street to eat, and he said, I look at this man, because you know me, I'll talk to anybody. I said, are you a Methodist? And he said, why, yes, I am. And he had on this Michigan shirt, and I said, so you're here with all the other Methodists? He said, no, I came here from Michigan. I just happen to be a Methodist. And he said, and this is the kind of blues I love. And he was Earl, all this kind of thing. So I know he must have thought I was an idiot, because I said, are you a Methodist? Anyway, so then he was from Michigan. So, always hold up the hand. Where are you from in Michigan? And he'd been all over the Palm. But anyway, if you've ever done that. But anyways, he was, they were just thrilled about the blues and all this kind of thing. It was pretty neat.
The other thing I don't think about, because I've lived here for so long, is that all this is real. This is not like going to Disney World and we've got Blues Alley, or we've got Epcot. It's not really Europe, but it is called Epcot. And in Memphis, it's all real. And I've had people come from Texas and want to do the Blues Trail. And they go to Beale Street. My friend Gary Gatemouth Milholland, Gatormouth is his stage name. He said, how can I play with these blues guys? I said, go buy a fifth of Jack Daniels. Go down there and hold it up. Say, can I play with you? And they will take the bottle, and you're in the band. And he played two.
Oh, you meant like play an instrument?
Yes,
and
sing the blues.
That's funny.
And he did that for 2 or 3 nights. And they went down to Clarksdale and went to all these other juke joints. He said, I bought a case of Jack Daniels, and I'm famous in Mississippi now.
Yeah, because they got the new museum along the way down there in the Delta. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, spending the night in a shotgun house is not my.
There is those places. It's called the Shack Up Inn in Clarksdale.
Yeah.
And these are old sharecropper shotgun. They call it shotgun style. It's a long house with maybe 2 bedrooms in it.
Because you can shoot and
you hit everybody in the house. Shoot all the way through the house.
All the way through, kind of like Elvis's birthplace, but yeah.
Like fish in a barrel.
But since I grew up like that, I do not want to go back like that. It's kind of like the tiny house.
Yeah.
Why do I want to live in a mobile home?
Well, it's exciting to young people who grew up in mansions, but for those of us who did not, we're not going back to the tiny house.
We're not going back to that. We're not going back to that. Outdoor toilet is not very that romantic.
Well, in fact, you did. In fact, Bill Morris, who's former mayor, sheriff of Shelby County, mayor of Shelby County, he grew up not far from where you grew up.
Itawamba County, Mississippi.
And he grew up without running water or indoor plumbing. And you were much younger than he, and you didn't have it when you were very young.
You had a well water, and they'd do the well.
Had to pump.
Yeah, for some reason you thought I came from money. I just don't understand where you got that.
Because you spend so much now.
Why do you think I'm not retired?
Well, you look good in clothes. So that's the other thing, too. But coming here and having something like Memphis in May, I think in its like 20th year, well, I know the first year with Japan, it's generated something like $8 million in taxes from all the hotels and the restaurants and everything else from the very, very first year, and it's made millions over the years. And that was what the whole thing was designed for. And we're going to talk to Lyman Aldrich about this in the next half hour, because he was one of the co-founders of it. And he was just a young guy in Memphis hanging out at Bombay Bicycle Club with Rodney Baber and some other backgammon players, and they all were sitting there, what can we do to help generate? Because Peabody was closed. I mean, the building we're in right now, Lansky's was on Beale Street, Peabody was closed, and things were not happening. In fact, I don't think I saw the first live person when I crossed the bridge until I got somewhere in Midtown on Union Avenue. There was just nothing going on. And Memphis in May and the Peabody Hotel were 2 of the big major instruments in helping bring back downtown and Memphis. And, of course, FedEx. But all of those things all work together. And people that haven't been down here since the pandemic, and there are a lot of people, and I'm sure you know them,
oh, yes.
I do, have not come down here to anything since the pandemic. And we see you at the Orpheum. You have season tickets to the Orpheum. You're at every basketball game, University of Memphis or the Grizzlies.
Yeah, we're there.
But you're a huge supporter of Memphis.
Very much so. So some of my favorite, charities would be, local. I mean, besides St. Jude, of course, and things like that, like the Mid-South Food Bank or the local, dog rescues, and I'm trying to think of some power. One I kind of found out about last year was they have high school. They have University of Memphis students. And then they will find these kids in high school, and they will mentor them.
Sort of like Big Brother, Big Sister.
Oh my gosh, it's even better. So it is just awesome, that kind of thing. So is that telling me to shut me up there
No,
with that alarm there?
that was George Gully calling me.
See, that's why I gave your wife Kathy my phone.
Yeah.
There we go. Like, okay,
I had mine turned down. I don't know how it rang.
I just had to turn it off. But I cannot tell you. Okay, I literally like Silky's. We all go to Silky's before we go to the FedEx game. We know everybody in there. The guys at the door grin and let me in the back door. I know that sounds terrible, but we're like we know all these people, and
Yes.
then Jesse is one of the guys in there, and we've seen pictures of his new baby. We just get to know these people, and then we go on to the FedEx Forum, and I get to know all those people. And yes, I do end up writing their insurance many times, but that's beside the point.
And you do wear the State Farm shirt wherever you go.
No, not. I wear my Grizzly shirt.
You take
or my
that guy
shirt.
that guy on the cardboard cutout that you have in your office. I see you driving down the street with him in the front seat.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. We'll put him out there. But anyway, so in August 1st, I celebrate my 35th anniversary. And for those of you who are my customers, our auto rates are going down later this year, so that's good.
Yay,
Now
everybody's happy about that.
Don't ask me about homeowners; we won't go there. But the autos, like we're writing new business now, and it's like amazing. So as we come on and as your car renews, hopefully. So I literally have had. I've either brought good luck or bad luck to people. I literally had a woman write Jake in my office. Wrote her homeowner's policy April 1st. April 5th, tree split her house. So she was like, we're there. Anyway, it was just she said, I'm so glad, because we brought her deductible down about $10,000. But anyway,
I guess she is.
And all these people. And it's just kind of fun because in my office, we kind of get to be like a little family. We let the ball drop a lot. We try not to, and we're trying to get better at that. But it gets busy. And that kind of thing, but we love on our people. We really do.
Well, I think that's the thing of it. One reason I want to have all my sponsors of the show on, because you're not just a sponsor of the show. All the people that have anything to do with the show are my friends, have been my friends for years and years. And I believe in them, they believe in me, and that really is what Memphis is about. It's a community. And we all believe in each other, and it takes all of us to make it happen. Look at things. If somebody comes up and says, I need to get this done, or help me find this, or you go, I know somebody. And that is the advantage of being here with me over 50 years.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, let's see, what is it I usually do? Hit curbs. And so you got little things in your curb things.
Yeah. Curb rashes.
So I called a friend of mine and I said, who's that guy that can get my wheel covers back, because they're like all dinged up or whatever. Also, I think another thing about Memphis is, what is it that Zebo said? We're a big blue-collar town.
Yeah.
Not a thing wrong with that.
No.
Because I can remember when I lived in Midtown, which I love Midtown. You remember the gas station that we all went to?
Right there at Belvedere and Madison.
Yeah, so fast forward, I think he's passed on now, but fast forward, I run into his daughter at where I go to church, and I went, do you remember them, Mr. Ed?
Yeah.
That was his name. And he
horses
loved
on
all
horse,
this.
so forth,
Not
so
that Mr. Ed. But anyway, so it was, you kind of like, so I always said when I go to town, I even did this when I went to Grenada, Mississippi, believe it or not, I find me a banker, a gas station, or whatever, a church, and then whenever you... then within that you got this group, and it's just like being in a small town again. You can really make it like that. Sorry.
In fact, I was talking to somebody, Felicia Suzanne and her husband. They live downtown, right near their restaurant, and they said it is like a small town atmosphere,
right?
Because everybody that lives down here, because it's not that many people, but maybe 20,000. So you're talking about a 20,000 person city, except on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. or if there's a basketball game,
Right.
and you got all the tourists around. But everybody knows who lives here, who's a regular. In fact, Felicia Suzanne's going to have the bar seats. You can reserve a seat at their bar if you're a downtown resident.
I love it. I love it.
It's sort of like church pews, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like that.
And of course, now where my office is in East Memphis on Brookhaven Circle, that's just like a. You put on about 10 pounds the first week you're there because there's all these
every
different
restaurant
places
there,
around,
yeah.
Hog and Hominy and all that. And then they got Catherine and Mary's down here, and then and you got Felicia Suzanne opening up. This is, of course, at Abina.
Yeah.
I go in there last night, I take my friends, and all these people are hugging me because we had a mutual friend pass away. But anyway, it's just kind of like, oh, welcome back, Kathy, and all this kind of thing. I said, have I been in here that much? Okay, all right.
I guess I have. Yeah. Well, but you're also famous. I mean, you've had billboards up for years. You were on television, on radio, so people know you. They feel like they know you. I know the last time we were at Edabina, and then after dinner we went downstairs to hear the music.
Oh, yeah.
And we were with a guy from Fort Worth and his wife, it was my sister and her husband. And I didn't think anything about it at the time, but we go downstairs, and the guy that was leading the band looks at the guy that's from Texas that's with us, and he goes, "Can I get you a private table? Do you need champagne or anything?" And he stops the music. And the guy I'm looking at him and said, "How does he know you?" And he said, "No, we're good. Thank you very much." So and then they stop, take a break. He comes over and says, "I'll get you a front table here, anything you need." And I couldn't figure. I said, "He thinks he's somebody else." And then it dawned on me. I looked at him and I went, "He thinks you're Fred Smith." Let's run up a tab.
Because he looked like Fred Smith.
He looked like Fred Smith.
That's pretty funny.
I saw Fred a couple of weeks after that. He was at the movies out at Fort Sill Irene in Germantown with his brother. And I stopped. I said, "You're going to love this story." And I told him the story. And he said, "Did you run up the tab?" I said, "No, we wouldn't do that." He said, "You should have." I'd have denied it, but you should have ran it up. But that's another example of somebody who loves Memphis. I mean, he brought FedEx to Memphis when Little Rock wouldn't do a deal with him. And he could live anywhere in the world. And he continues to live here out in East Memphis and loves Memphis. He goes around and he fills up his own car. I've seen him at that gas station at Ridgeway and Poplar.
Oh, yeah.
"Hey, Fred, how's it going?" "Good. You come fill up my car for me?" No, he never says that. But that's why everybody's just down to earth here. And I think that's one of the great things about Memphis and will continue to be.
I'm trying to think somebody else who's still here.
We're still here.
Yeah, we're still here. Oh, wait a minute. He comes in my office. He's got a cigar. He had the horses and all this. Oh, my gosh, we just had our picture made with him. Okay.
Well, give me a hint. They had the horses.
The little horse thing. Okay, well, you were in the office, and he came in.
Okay. He used to be with the Rogues, Memphis Rogues.
Yeah, why are we? Oh, we're getting old, Earl.
Well, you forgot it first. Then you brought it up. I never mentioned anybody. I can't remember who they are.
I know, that's probably a bad thing. He sent us an email the other day, and he hadn't been in lately, and he said, "I'm missing our desk side chats." And I said, "Only."
Well, go to the Tinderbox cigar place. He's in there every day.
Yeah, whatever.
Go there and hang
this
out
is
with him.
terrible. They're going to kill me. But anyway, we kind of it's just kind of fun. So I asked the guy in my office. He's worked at other offices. I said, "What is it different about our office?" He said, "People just are like family, and they come in, or we cry with them and laugh with them, and it's just kind of."
Well, you keep up with your people, and you're there, and all those employees have been there for years and years. So it's not like you're going to some place that's a revolving door,
right?
And it is kind of a gathering place because people come by and just to say hi, as opposed to "I got a problem," and then you'd go, "You certainly do."
Rudy Schiffer, thank you.
Well,
Rudy Schiffer.
You are correct. Yes.
That's right.
And
okay.
he was with the Memphis Rogues, and then he had a radio show for a while on gambling, which I knew nothing about. But he did. In fact, he had a magazine on that, so that's why he's not working now. He made so much money off of that.
But
a true character, though.
Oh my goodness, he came. So the guy who's taking care of him is 38. So he was like, "Who is this guy?" And then he looked him up, and then, of course, he'd come in and he would tell all these stories that I hope never get printed because he's just really entertaining. But anyway, it's just kind of fun. And that's, they come to Memphis, they kind of, I'm only going to be here a while, and they're still here.
Yeah, I thought I'd be here a couple of years like I was everywhere else. And, I've lived here more than I've lived longer than any place I've ever lived in my life. And so it is home.
That's true. That's true.
If somebody is new to the Memphis area and they do need insurance, you can handle all of their needs. How do they get in touch with you?
901-767-7744. 901-767-7744. And
if you just want to come by for free cookies and candy, they've always got food in the office.
Yeah. You know, since COVID, we don't do the cookies, but we got plenty of candy. And it happens to be on Velma's desk, and I'll go in there and says, "Oh, butterscotch, I got it." And I notice she keeps filling it up. I said, "You're not doing good for my diet." But anyway, so yeah.
Well,
and we have new coffee mugs. I should have brought you one. It's
should
beautiful.
Have. We drank out of them at home. I got the whole collection of them. I see you have the State Farm Club. It's a coffee club. Well, you're a great Memphian, and I'm glad we've been friends all these years. And I support you. You support me, and that's really what Memphis is all about.
Good deal.
Good deal. Thank you.
All righty.
Go Tigers, go Grizz.
And go Beale Street.
Beale
Love
Street
it.
and downtown.
All right.
Kathy Thurmond Edwards, tell David hi for us.
We will.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and listen to some of our other sponsors. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dawn Grader, President and CEO of Southern Security Federal Credit Union. We're the proud title sponsor of the Earl Farrell for Memphis show. Coming to you live from Lansky's in the world-famous Peabody Hotel and celebrating all of the great things about our great city, Memphis, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm so proud to be part of the Earl Farrell for Memphis show, streaming live from Lansky's from the Peabody. We will be showcasing not only Napa Cafe, but some great restaurants around town. We look forward to seeing you.
Hi, everyone. It's Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. And I'm here to tell you about the new podcast that Earl Farrell from Memphis is doing. And we're doing it downtown live from the Peabody, which is behind me and next to the Rendezvous. And we're going to be talking all things Memphis, but we're also going to be talking about health insurance because that applies to everyone. And I can help you in every area. So I look forward for you listening to us and learning more about what we can do for you in Memphis and how I can help you with your health.
Hi, I'm George Gully. Want to welcome Earl back to the podcast. We're here at Jim Carrey Chevrolet, Nissan, Subaru, Buick, and GMC, and I'm going to save you some money. Come down and see me today.
Hi, I'm Kathy Thurmond Edwards, State Farm, and I'm so excited to be one of the sponsors for the Earl Farrell from Memphis show, broadcasting live from Lansky's at the Peabody. And I'll tell you all about what we've got going on at our office. Gift cards for quotes. No purchase necessary. I'm better looking than a lizard.
Hi, this is Randy Wright from the Dive Shop and Dive Ventures in Memphis. We've been in Memphis over 64 years teaching people to dive, snorkel, and swim. We'd love to have you come join us and have some fun. We're also a part of the Dive Ventures group with 18 locations across the country, stretched from Phoenix to Vienna, Virginia. Please give us a call. We'll be able to take care of you at 999 South Yates in Memphis or call us at 901-763-DIVE.
Hi, I'm Brett Batterson, President and CEO of the Orpheum Theater Group in downtown Memphis. We are so pleased with our partnership with the Earl Farrell Show and very happy that he is broadcasting live from Lansky's at the historic Peabody Hotel. We're all here to make Memphis better.
Hi, my name is Jameson Todd, and I'm the director of Live at the Garden and the Radiance Amphitheater. And we're so excited for our 25th year of Live at the Garden here at the Memphis Botanic Garden. We've got a great lineup for you this season, so come on out.
Hi, I'm Olivia Wald, Director of Marketing and Communications for Memphis Botanic Garden and Live at the Garden. We've had Earl Farrell right along the way for the past 25 years, and we can't wait to talk more about the season this summer on the Earl Farrell for Memphis show.
So come out to Live at the Garden. Our first show is on June 21st.
Hi, my name is Scott Fueling. I'm president of Phoenix Communications here in Memphis. I'm really proud to support Earl Farrell's show, as is everybody else on the team. We love Memphis, and we love doing things to promote Memphis, and we can't wait for this to get started.
And welcome back. We had a little interruption in our internet connection, but we're all back up again. And joining me in our studios, our temporary studios here, twice a week at Lansky's, Clothier to the King, is Lyman Aldrich. Welcome to the show, Lyman.
Thanks, Earl. I appreciate being here.
Well, we've been friends for, almost 50 years. I got here in 1978. I think we ran at each other along with Rodney Baber. And look at the pals we used to have at Bombay Bicycle Club. You go in there and knew everybody there. It was kind of our cheers. And we've remained friends. We've all gotten married since then. And all our wives are friends with each other. In fact, your wife and my wife, Sally and Kathy, been in the same book club for 40-something years.
Yeah.
42 maybe. A long time.
Right.
And but you were one of the original co-founders of Memphis in May, along with Rodney Baber, and then the lady that was very much involved. And it's been 50 years. Hard to believe?
It's very hard to believe. Excuse me. In fact, I looked at some pictures for the documentary I'm doing about Memphis in May and how we all started that thing. And I saw a picture, and it was me welcoming the ambassador from Japan for our first Memphis in May. I saw the picture of it May 3rd of 1977.
Wow.
Which was just last Saturday. And so
50 years later.
Brought a lot of memories back. 48 years.
There's some pictures I went in and found the first year, which was 78.
77.
Well, that was the first, but the first barbecue was not to what?
78.
78.
78. Right.
And here it is. This was in the parking lot next to the Orpheum Theater, which was closed, by the way, then. And it's now a 5 or 6-story parking garage. But it was out there. People were cooking on hibachis. That's the woman who won the rib division. I got maybe the whole thing.
Bessie Louise Cathy. She won the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Right.
And she was just this lady. She wasn't some big barbecue restaurant entrepreneur.
Can I tell you the story?
Yeah.
She was coming down on a bus down Madison Avenue and stopped by Piggly Wiggly to go in and get her sauce and her ribs. Came back out, got on a bus, came back down, and was one of the 16 contestants, and she won the darn thing. And she didn't want to give up her recipe for the sauce. And we said, Miss Bessie, $500 is the prize. And it took us 3 or 4 times and saying, do you want the money? And she said yes. And so she said,
that's how you finally got it.
Hyde Park barbecue sauce.
Commercial, yes.
Commercial, yeah. Right.
Well, but the thing is, I remember the next year was when I was here, and that was when they had it at 10. We've got a shot of that one. They said, well, it rained the first year. So they said, we're going to put it at tent. And it wasn't like a little tent. It was a big tent.
It was a circus tent, right.
Yeah, but it was, once you started all those fires, it was like being in a house fire. And people couldn't see.
It was terrible.
And they then said, next year, bring your own tent. I guess is what they said. Looking back on it, because the first year you had just, 30, 40 people in the barbecue cooking contest?
Oh, the first year was only 17.
17,
right.
Wow.
And then I think it went to 42 under the tent. And then after that, it blew up to 75 and then 125 and then ended up being 270 teams.
And in fact, we've got a shot of later years, like probably 2019. This is what it looked like before the pandemic. And I remember we did my radio show down there. And what an incredible place. And there were 217 teams?
270.
70.
270.
And it was just a continuous flow of people walking through the park, Tom Lee Park. Hundreds of these booths, the rib division, the pork division, the Boston Bud division, the shoulder division. Whole hog.
Right.
And just the energy in that place during those, it continued to grow and grow and grow until the pandemic. And then you had the Riverfront Association that came along, and then they wanted to make changes, and everything has changed. But that is kind of what you're doing now. You're working on a couple of documentaries about how the barbecue came along, and it wasn't just about the barbecue, and it wasn't about the Beale Street Music Festival. It was about getting people to come back downtown again and bringing business and revenue to Memphis.
That was the whole idea. Downtown was in terrible shape after the King assassination. The Peabody was closed and was sold on the courthouse steps in 1975. And then the Beale Street was closed, and the Orpheum was running X-rated movies and doing a few other things. But it was, you can imagine downtown without these 3 historic relics. And then we started in 77, and I think that first year we had the Beale Street Music Festival, and we had a jazz festival at Court Square, and then we had the Sunset Symphony down on the riverfront. Incredible. But, we brought 42,000 people down that year, and we had nobody backing us. And my budget was $52,000 that I went to about 10 people to get $52,000. Individual. Well, there were a couple of companies, but mainly. And the Junior League put up the money for the Sunset Symphony.
Wow.
They were fabulous.
I just remember how incredible the Sunset Symphony was, and had the guy would always come out and sing Old Man River.
But James Hyder.
But you had the symphony that would come and play, all in their white tuxedos. You had, I remember the year Charlie Rich was the big entertainment. I mean, that was big time. Eric Braden was Days of Our Lives came in, was one of the MCs on television on Channel 3. Was me and Pan Crittenden. And I just remember he's got this English accent. He goes, Memphis. Oh, you can smell the magnolias. The women are beautiful here. I said, that's Memphis.
Well, I had a chance to interview Lamar Alexander for the documentary a couple of months ago. And he said, Lyman, I just love thinking back about the time when I played on the stage of the Sunset Symphony. And he said, I looked out there must have been 250,000 people. And it looked like it. It looked like he just loved that day. In fact, I think he's played down there at least 2 times.
Well, it was such especially coming from Dallas and coming here and seeing it evolve from the first year into year after year after year. Now, I remember coming down and getting on the bluff and sitting up there on the grass back in the old days, and they had the stage down right by the river looking back toward the bluff. And all our pals we hung out with, we all had blankets and coolers, and families were there. They came and spent the day. I remember one year they had the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds did a flyover.
They did that.
And
they sure did.
It was what made it, I think, so special was it wasn't started by some corporation trying to make money. It was a truly grassroots movement, started by people that really wanted to make something out of what we all knew was here, was Memphis, Tennessee.
And that's the whole thing, that we were fighting the recession and fighting what happened with Dr. King and all of the bad things. And I just told you the 3 historic places were closed down. And I got a group of black, white men and women, all young, 25 to 34 years old, to get together and say, we've got to do something to try to help save the city. The chamber was broke, the city was broke, and nobody was doing anything, and nobody had any money. We just did it, young people being creative, and we didn't have any money, so we had to implement every one of those things ourselves.
And you did.
And we did.
I talk about this a lot. People will come up with this, someday I'm going to write a book, someday I'm going to do a documentary, someday I'm going to do this, start a company, make a movie. Very few people actually do. Not only did you do something back then, you continued to live and work in Memphis and be a part of Memphis. For years, you left downtown. When I first met you were living downtown. I was living downtown. We were all hanging out downtown. Then you moved to East Memphis, Chickasaw Gardens, and then you moved all the way to Collierville, bought a historic home in Collierville. So that came all the way back downtown. Now you're at Martyrs Point, or Park, and built a wonderful home there, and you're so involved with what's going on in downtown Memphis again. And I think this documentary, actually it's 2 documentaries you're working on. And I told you this years ago, if you want this true story of Memphis and May and how it all happened and who was really involved in it, you've got to be the person to tell the story, because somebody else will.
Well, you have said that a number of times, and we are telling it now. I think I've interviewed 35 people historically, and Jack Bells is one of them, Henry Turley, Pat Halloran,
God bless him.
Joy Weiner, who was the concert master for the symphony for 20 years down there on the riverfront. We had to have those people on tape, which we have now, thank goodness. And it's the story of us coming down here without any of this stuff built and bringing 42,000 people the first year, 75,000 people the second year, 100,000 the third year. And when this hotel reopened in September of '81, 5 years later, Memphis May had brought 100,000 people in May downtown.
Wow.
And it's incredible. And that just kind of started lifting people saying, God, we need to go down there. There's so much going on down there.
When you interviewed Jack this time, and he's, downtown's gone through some tough times, but there's still new businesses open. Felicia Suzanne's just reopened.
Oh, yeah, we ate there. It was wonderful.
And so the hotels are being built, homes are being built, apartment buildings. I mean, it's really just an amazing thing to watch this all happen downtown. But did Jack, when you're talking to him, talk about the impetus that Memphis in May brought to downtown? Was that one of the deciding factors for him to reopen the Peabody?
No, he decided to reopen the Peabody in 75 when he bought it on the courthouse steps. I don't think he thought that he was going to build it as grand as it is now. He had to go through a few iterations in his mind with his family to figure out that he would build the Grand Lady of the Delta again.
Because he certainly did.
He did. Thank gosh.
I tell people all the time. In fact, your daughter recently got married and had a reception here in the Grand Ballroom, and it was like being in Europe. It really is. That's how grand it is.
There's no question about that.
And you walk in here, and when I was thinking where I would like to do a live video podcast, and years ago during the pandemic, I moved my show home and did a live video podcast from my house at the bar, which was convenient. But I thought if I could be anywhere, where would I be? And I thought, Lansky's at the Peabody would be perfect because of its its history, its grandness. And then when I thought about it again recently, I came down to talk to Hal, said, what do you think about this idea? He goes, let's do it. But you got to move all the clothes off the table every time and put them back.
Well, I love Lansky's. In fact, I'm wearing an Elvis jacket that he wore in the last movie.
Is the Elvis lining in that jacket?
No.
Okay, because what he started doing now is all the jackets. This one doesn't have it either. But you open them up and it's got pictures of Elvis and Bernard. Or the wedding jacket has Elvis and Priscilla. And
well, when our daughter got married, I wanted to come and get a jacket made, and Lansky's made the jacket.
Oh, wow.
And he said, let me show you what I can do. And he said, you bring me 9 pictures, and I'll do the whole lining of pictures of your family. And it is fabulous what they can do to making a jacket, as well as all of them that you see here, fabulous colors and styles and so forth. I'm here a couple of times a year buying jackets here.
Well, just look at right now. You look at all the color around us. And I said, what a beauty. Even when we take pictures of the guests that come on, everybody looks better standing in Lansky's because the clothes are so fabulous. And it truly is a very unique place. In fact, we were talking to a gentleman right before we went on the air today, talking about how he grew up in Memphis. And it wasn't until he got a little bit older and wanted to buy good clothes, and he was in Vegas. And they said, where are you from? He said, Memphis. He goes, what are you doing buying clothes in Vegas? Bernard Lansky's has the best clothes in the United States, and they're right there in your hometown in Memphis, Tennessee.
It is so true. The colors, the fashion is just wonderful. The story about this pink coat, it was the coat that the Elvis character wore for 2 minutes in the last big Elvis movie. And so it was on a mannequin here in Lansky's, and I was sitting at the bar, and I looked and I said, oh my God, I got to go see that. And he had it in my size, and he said he wore it for 2 minutes in the movie. He got 2,000 phone calls.
Wanted to buy it.
Wanted to buy that, so he had 200 of them made, and I got one of them.
Well, the interesting thing about that is when Elvis was alive in the later years, Bernard and Hal they get a shipment of clothes in. They'd take him out to Graceland because he couldn't come to the store unless they closed it because the people would just cover the place up. And they'd go to Graceland, and he would try on all the clothes and pick out what he likes. And so then they'd bring the clothes back. And whatever he picked out, he would buy like hundreds of those shirts. But he'd only put like 3 or 4 on the rack out here. And they would buy those, he'd replace them. They'd buy those, he'd replace them. But they're great business people. And it's fun having a jacket like that, isn't it?
Oh, it's a ball. I've worn it at weddings out in California, and they're just saying, where'd you get that? That's well, Lansky's.
You got to come to Memphis to
get it.
Well, they ship all over the world. And so that's another reason he wanted to do this show, because people come here from all over the world.
Well, my brother-in-law and his family now, but particularly my brother-in-law, they won't go anyplace else when they come here. They won't even stay with us. They stay here, and so they can come down here, and my brother-in-law can buy clothes here. That's how much they love Lansky's.
Well, and that's the other reason I wanted to do it here, because it really represents what Memphis is, the grandness, but also the down-to-earthness. These are just good Memphis people. And you never hear a bad word about the Lansky's, the store, or the Peabody. If there's a problem, they take care of it. And that's what you do. And when people come here, you have new relatives now that live in Mexico. They come here. What was their impression of Memphis?
Oh, they just absolutely loved it. We had 50 of them that come to the wedding.
Yeah. I mean, it was an entourage.
They absolutely loved being here. Loved being in the Peabody Hotel. They were just blown away by the hotel and Lansky's and the downtown.
Well, I think they live in Mexico City, and Mexico City is grand.
It is grand. We went for the first time about 2 months ago. What a fabulous city.
And I don't think most Americans, they've been to they go to the resort places, but you go to Mexico City, it is like going to Europe with all the art and the architecture, and I mean, it is spectacular.
Oh, their opera house, and then they have a museum there that Slim...
the richest man in Mexico.
Yeah, the richest man that he built. That is the most spectacular museum that I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's notorious. He's not Mexican Slim. It's something like that, but his last name is Slim.
His last name is Slim.
It's like a Texas oil band. I mean, he's a very dynamic, very charismatic guy. For people, though, that are wanting to have Memphis in May kind of return back to what, are you hearing that from people, all the people you know, and you go around the city, and like last weekend, they used to bring 100,000 people, and like 2022 or 23, it would have been, because before the pandemic it was 19 and 20, right? So the last year that Memphis in May was involved, had about 100,000 people down here for the 3-day music fest. Last year, they had 37,000. I understand 15,000 of those were tickets they were given to people.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I went to Grok, which is Elon Musk's super brain he built here in Memphis. Said, what was the attendance this year? Said, well, while it's not, those numbers are not made public, the Memphis Police Department estimated the 3-day crowd to be around 30,000. So it hasn't even approached anything near what it was in years past.
No.
And I think people would like to see it. It's grand. I saw some aerial photographs, I think I told you about them, and it looked good, but you can tell there was about 5,000 or 10,000 people on the day that was shot.
And then what you get from that, what Memphis does not get from that, are people en masse to buy hotel rooms and go to the Beale Street and go to all the restaurants, because we could max out on Beale Street and barbecue at 45,000 people a day. And then this group, I saw they were selling out at 12,000 people. So you don't get the number. You can't have the big talent coming in here.
Because you can't pay them.
You can't pay them, and then you don't have people coming from all over the world to say, I want to go to the great talent, because they're not here.
Yeah.
And they can't be because of the way they configured, the park.
Well, it has gotten very competitive. I mean, look at South Haven. They weren't restricted by a 5,000 person limit on concerts and all, because that's what you got at the FedEx Forum they made years ago. But then they tried to bring the Mud Island Amphitheater back, and I thought that was on track to happen. And then all of a sudden, the CFO of the city said it wasn't, that the amphitheater was not secure enough, or it wasn't stable enough, I think was the word. How's the CFO come up with a ruling on stability of a concrete building, or all it really is steps, the seating?
I thought that they had gotten somebody else to look at it. Am I not correct?
No, they
on
did.
that?
Architectural firm came in and said it was solid as rock. And then the CFO of the city came out, which tells me, there's so many things that happen, and as we've witnessed over the last few years, that you wonder, well, why did that happen? And you can't get a straight answer out of anybody. So.
Yeah, that tells you what's going on.
Yeah, and when you can't get an answer, that's why I was so surprised to see Grok that said they don't make those numbers public. Why not? Why wouldn't you make those numbers public?
Well, I remember those first years of Memphis May, they always wanted to know the numbers. They wanted to know whether we were telling the truth or not, and they would ask all kinds of questions.
Yeah, well, they could ask, but they're not going to get any answers at all. What can people do? I mean, I know you're working on a couple of documentaries. Is there any kind of a organization? Memphis in May is really no longer Memphis in May, correct?
No, it is. Memphis May organization is alive and well, and they're doing the World Championship Pork Barbecue Cooking Contest plus steak at Liberty Bowl in about, in fact, it's a week from this next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Right.
And so they've got 150 teams. the bigger teams, because it is the World Championship, the big guys want to go there. They want the trophy. They want the title.
And the reputation.
Absolutely. They want the title. They want to start a barbecue joint somewhere in the world, and they go back
because of winning the World Championship.
I talked to most of the big ones last year because they go around and talk to those little guys, and came back here. They said, we don't want to go downtown. I mean, that's nothing for us to win a local contest like that. We want the 3 major pork barbecue cooking contests. It's the Jack Daniels, the Jack, and then there's the Royal in Kansas City, and the World Championship in Memphis. They're the 3 big ones.
Is there a chance it'll ever come back to Tom Lee Park?
There's not enough room on Tom Lee Park.
Because of what they did?
Yeah. Yeah, they cut out 35 to 40% of the event space down there, so you'll never have the major events down there again.
Do you think the viability of it being at the Liberty Bowl, that can grow from there, just on the reputation?
I think for sure on barbecue, no question about it. They can really push that a great deal and bring more teams in it that want to compete for the big trophies.
So I guess if you want to support Memphis in May and see it become what it once was, go to the barbecue next week at the World Championship barbecue at the Liberty Park.
No question about that. Do that. It's a lot of fun. The old founders, we go every year and enjoy the heck out of it because it is the typical great old Memphis in May event.
As far as, because you and your wife Sally live downtown now, are you optimistic about what you're seeing going on downtown? I mean, there's all these people say, well, I'm not going downtown. And I kept saying, that's one reason I came downtown and brought the show downtown. I said, I want to show you. I love it down here. The energy down here is here.
It's tremendous.
The tourists are here, and they're loving it. They're having a good time. The people who aren't coming here, the people who live here, which is crazy.
It is crazy. We go out to eat all the time. We are season ticket holders at both the Grizzlies and the Orpheum, and we're at all the new restaurants that open up. Then we go back again. We were at Felicia Suzanne's 2 weeks ago when it opened up. Couldn't wait for it to come back. And so the vibe is there. The fun is still there. That people say out in other parts of the city say, oh, no, as you say, I'm not coming down. Come on down. I mean, it's fabulous things to do here.
We're here.
We're here. Lansky's is here, as is the Peabody.
Peabody, absolutely. What about the trolleys? They keep pushing the date back. I thought they were going to be here by springtime, and they keep pushing it back. Have you heard any more about those?
I hadn't heard a word. Not a word about that.
It's such an added dimension to downtown. I love the trolleys.
It's personality.
It is. It's very few cities in the country have that.
Have one, and we've got it sitting in a barn somewhere.
Well, they got the tracks that are there. And I talked to Jake Shore, who was in the Navy and during Vietnam, and I asked him because he was a real mechanical type person, and I said, so what's the deal? And he said, they're electric, and electric motors need constant maintenance to keep them running. But you know, New Orleans doesn't have a problem. They've never stopped. Same thing in San Francisco. Those are electric, but they take care of them, and I take care of the business there.
Tells you the budget. They don't make a budget for those.
Well, and that's it. That we got to take them someplace else. And we all know what MATA has done with their budget.
Thank you. May I mention one thing about you say our organization? Memphis in May is doing what they're doing, but the organization that a number of the founders started was Revival Memphis, and it was to tell the story of how Memphis in May came about to try to help save downtown, and that's the name under which we're producing the documentaries. And one is for how Memphis in May started and all the interviews that we have with Jack and Pat and others. And then the other one is the story of the Japanese businesses coming to town, because we honored Japan the first year in 1977, and they have 206 companies in the state now. They've spent
that weren't there before.
No, all brand new because of Memphis in May starting what we did in 1977.
It was actually a trade mission is what you went on. In a way.
No, we brought. You mean
what you did would bring Japan in as the first country to start talking. We said we want to do business.
Oh, you're
with
talking about
so it was a trade
the
mission.
trade mission, right? No, we wanted economic development because the chamber was broke then. They weren't doing anything, and I knew Japan was going to invest in the United States. I was told that by the State Department, and so I said, maybe we pick them first. And there was one Japanese company here, and I went to them and said, would you be on my board of directors, because I don't want to make a mistake. And then they bring in the ambassador to the United States, the first Memphis in May in 1977, and then it has exploded from there. Billions investment. They've hired 60,000 people in the state of Tennessee. We have 32 of the companies in West Tennessee.
Wow. Well, anything can happen and will happen with the right people behind it, and I'm glad to see you still behind it, Lyman Aldrich. I appreciate you coming in, taking some time to spend with us today. And when the documentaries come out, let's have you back on. We'll talk about those.
Earl, thank you so much. Always a pleasure being with you.
Absolutely. Tell your lovely wife, Sally, hello.
We'll do it.
All right. That's it for us today. Thank you for checking in with us. It's going to be available on YouTube forever and for the next 30 days on Facebook. So thanks for tuning in. We'll be back at Lansky's, Clothier to the King in the world-famous Peabody Hotel. We'll see you then.